Salaam Alaykum. This is Shaykhibrahim. I'm sorry. Today we're talking about the witness. In Islam, when we first start out, we say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. The very first sentence, meaning, I witness that there is nothing but Allah. Now, the question is, what is this witness? Who or what is witnessing what? I believe it helps to have a part of ourselves objectively watching whatever we're doing. To get to that point is difficult for a lot of us, especially as an extrovert. You may have difficulty withdrawing from physical or contact with people on a conversational level, or an activity that's going on, or you're engaging in some way. It's difficult to stop, but that's what I'm suggesting.
How do you balance? I mean, is that just a work in progress? But how do you get that? Just thinking.
All right, I'm going to take this from my own personal experience.
Yeah.
When I realized that I had, especially with my family, which was very judgmental, was judging people, about other cultures. My mom and dad, during World War II, there was a lot of poverty, and there was a lot of, you just have to keep, preserving everything you can to this post-World War life where you want everything to go back to normal and just, be a family when you have never been a family before. There was a lot of judgment. And I realized that I had a problem with that. And I was up against it in a kind of, first, as a teenager, being rebellious. I rebelled against everything. And being, a boomer, I wanted a completely different society. And so did all my friends. So there was that too. So there was kind of like this chasm between these two different systems. And then I realized I am not able to operate in either of these worlds very well. I'm going to take a back seat for a while and just watch the show rather than participate. So for a couple of years, for me, I did not really talk to anybody. So I realized this was just something I have to go through, because anytime I'm going to say anything, it's going to be filled, it's going to be a manipulation. There's all these strings that, I'm just a puppet, reacting knee-jerk ways, whatever. So I decided I'm just going to stop the whole thing and just watch. So I think this is when I realized that my witness could observe this, whereas my other knee-jerk habits would go into play, but I don't have to do anything. I just have to observe. You know what I mean? So as I watched this, it was a long process, because to me, I realized there were all of these strings and chains and buttons and links and yokes of all different manner. And this is about when I was 15, I think, 15, 16. And then I got to test it to see, had I made it through the other side of that. When I saw my father in his usual commanding self, being the king of the land in his lounge chair, and the family around him, and just coming down on my knees, because she was going through her goth style with black lipstick, safety pins all over everything, and army boots. And he was calling, "You slut, why are you doing that?" And I said, "That's not how you talk to people. Not especially your own family." Well, just saying that, everybody's jaw dropped, and they looked at me. They were thankful, but they'd never heard me say anything like that, especially to my father, who I grew up fearing. So it was kind of like, what? Who is this? And I was not invested in the outcome or anything. I was just saying, this isn't right. You don't talk to people like that. And he apologized, and everybody looked at me in a completely different way. And I was kind of like, oh, I think I passed. I'd kind of gone through it, but it took me a couple of years just to kind of observe.
Sure.
And that's the kind of thing that you have to do. You can't do both at the same time. So what I was talking with Rukaya was about, every 20 minutes or so, take a long, deep breath, take a minute back and assess what's going on. Ask your heart, check in with your heart. How are things going? You okay? Is there anything you need? Anything you want me to know? Am I all right? Is everything okay? And it just takes a couple seconds to do that. So I was suggesting maybe put a timer on your phone or your watch or something, just so that you can take a moment to assess. Because with the day as it is, especially at work, all you want to do is work and just get it over with. But I'm saying you can be at your job or whatever it is, but take a moment to come back in. I mean, we do that, but with our breath 30 or 40 times a minute. We breathe out, we breathe in. This is just a moment in. The rest of the time is out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So does that help, Alameen?
Yes, it does. Thanks, Shay.
It takes an effort, and it takes wanting to do something about this. But we all have these chains and buttons that make us react. It comes from our first culture, the family, secondary culture, which could be the country that we grew up in or the religion we grew up in. And then there's the culture that we live in now, which has its own mores and taboos, which we have to stay in line with and stay on top of and not upset others or the boat or make waves. Especially in Australia, you do not make waves because that might get attention from the guards. Yeah.
Yeah, Shay, maybe this is digressing a little bit, but just something just popped in. And sometimes at certain times reading the Quran, it seems like, from my limited perspective, that it's talking to humans or people. Allah's talking to people at a certain time and within a certain culture. So I know I'm being general here, but how do you? Obviously, the culture now is different to the culture then, but it seems to me, especially in the earlier passages, that Allah was talking to the culture of the Arabs and the tribes. The sort of that bloodthirstiness that was relevant and back then. I'm not sure if that's just too general a question, but just thinking, how do we understand that? How do we understand what Allah's saying in terms of the Quran at certain times?
Okay.
So people.
Okay, if we're going from the Quran, how many times does it say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim?
At the beginning of every surah, or nearly?
Yeah, except for one. Yes.
Except for one.
Yes. So I would take that to mean it would be better to be merciful and compassionate than anything, than being severe, because that's what Allah loves. And then the other part of that is that's up to you. We don't have a pope in Islam. And there are imams and hajis and who have studied that you can consult with, but it is essentially up to you to make what sense out of it you wish.
Right.
And that that in itself creates trouble. Because, well, the first thing that happens is you get these. Well, the first thing that happens is schism, which our prophet said, don't do that. But, because it went from Allah to Muhammad, peace and blessings upon him, to people did their thing. And people will always do their thing and tell you what the truth is. And tell you what God should be, and that you should wear your hijab always, because we will. This just happened yesterday. We will lash you 75 times if you don't wear your hijab. It was kind of like, it's a piece of clothing. Anyway, so these theocratic states and these peoples of strong cultural belief system, that's different than the essence of Islam or Judaism or Taoism or Hasidism or Zoroastrianism. The essence is pure. People disturb it.
Right.
Nicely. Once people get a hold of a belief system with values, they will corrupt it for their own purposes, even though they may think they're doing a good thing. Why? Because it's people. And everybody has nafs. And one of the things we like to do is tell people what's what. I'm going to tell you what's true and real. And you go, oh, thank you so much. You must be very important and very smart and very spiritual. You are such a blessed person. Yes, I am. And that's not reality. That's to answer your question a little more clearly, we're tribal. Humans are tribal. Why? Because we come from monkey tribes. When you go back and you watch Dr. Goodall in her observations and read her stuff, she'll talk to you about there's a tribe of like, I know these people. I don't know these people. There's us, and then there's them. And it makes life so much easier and survivable when we know who's us and who's them. Why? Because the mammal part of us, this vehicle, is bred for survival. It's taken millions of years to get to this point. Therefore, this survival of like, we've got to survive, is all embedded, and a lot of it's hardwired. And then we think that that's us. And that isn't true. we're just using this as a vehicle to observe the state of Allah in this fantastic kaleidoscope of matter. That matter can do all these things. And we go, how does this work? This is incredible. I can smell and I can taste and I can touch. I can love and I can spread my arms. I can fly. I can do all these things. But then we think, this is an I, a me, when we have to give up all of this in the end and return to our source. Well, what do you think of that? Okay, Adam, did you have a question?
With the tribe that we belong to, that's just pretty much a natural thing that I know you say yourself. It's just a natural thing that we make ourselves do to survive, and it's hard to break from that. It's hard to break like you think that I relate to this culture or belief system, and you've got that in your background, and you seem really you've got it hardwired in your brain to think, oh, those people down the street, I'm not like them. I don't know anything about them, but deep down inside, I think we all know that that is wrong. What part of us do we know is us in ourselves, like which is our I, there's just so much that we've learned to think that who we are, and I know there is the witness, and all I know is from what I've learned from Buddhism is that we don't really have an inherent self as such, and I know this has got nothing to do with Islam, nothing to do with Sufism. I want to know from your point of view as a Islamic Sufi, what is your opinion about what is actually inherently us? What is our true self?
Yes, that's a good question. That's one of the best questions ever. And that's what this life is about, to answer that. For you. It's going to be different for everybody. So, the best question of all time. So, what is this? Good. I can't answer that because I'm not you.
No.
I'm the one who can answer that.
Yeah.
You can't answer it for me, and I can't answer it for you.
No.
So, an excellent question to keep in the forefront of your consciousness. What is me? So I very often I'll ask a murid, a student, so what is you and what is not you? Now, when we're starting out, we become aware of the bag of nefs we carry around. Actually, it's more bags of nefs. They're like garbage bags, but we tend to think that these are mine. These are mine. These are my bags, and we identify with them. Whatever tribe we're with, whatever culture we're with, whatever language we speak, whatever value system or religion or value that we identify with, we think that that's us. That's not true. But it's a way of defining ourselves. So who are you? You can say, oh, I'm a mechanic. I work on electric vehicles, and I have a shop down the street. I've been doing this for about 15 years. And you go, oh, okay. Who are you? Oh, I'm a lawyer. I do this and I do that, and I try to bring justice. And everybody identifies in these little boxes. And if you're asking my opinion, when we talk about Maya, the shapeshifter, the illusion, that illusionist, that or shaitan, if you will, that's the one who says, you must become small and contained. If I can make you small and contained, you will be happy and comfortable. And this is, we're talking about Buddhism. This is what Buddha fought all those days under the tree, trying to figure out, well, which is true and which is not true. For the Sufi, it's the same thing. I've got all these nafs, but if I get rid of them, what would I be? And this is one of the things that one of our saints, Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, had to deal with. He decided he's going to get rid of all of his nafs. Oh, so there he goes. He just takes them all out, gets rid of everything. And then Allah says to him, put him back. But I just got rid of them. I'm free. I'm perfect now. And Allah is saying, yeah, that doesn't work here. You can't be perfect. This is a world of transformation. You have to keep changing. You have to learn. You're a human so that you can learn. I want to be perfect. Well, that means you can't change. And I want you to change. I want you to grow. I want you to learn. Learning's hard because I have to give up parts of myself to grow and learn. That's hard. Yep. Now, if you want to be comfortable, well, then get yourself one big lounge chair and die in it. Because to grow means to change. To be comfortable means to die. Whoa, that's heavy. It's not a bad thing to be comfortable, but don't get comfortable being comfortable. Because that is stagnation, and stagnation is death, as we see in all things that are alive, or even empires. Empires that stagnate, die. Things that are alive that stagnate, die. To stay alive means to stay flexible and growing and open and fail. If you don't fail, you're not growing. Ooh, heavy. So the tribe and the family are the first things we identify with. We identify with our mom, then our father, then sometimes the religion, if it's especially what's the word? Insidious, ubiquitous. If it's all around you and everybody is believing it, and you got to be, baptized or bar mitzvah or whatever is necessary for you to be part of the community, that becomes your identity until you come to a point where, like what you just asked, Adam, that brilliant question. So who am I? What is this? What am I supposed to be doing? Why am I here? Where am I going? What's this all about? Yes, there are books and YouTube people who will tell you what the answers are. And I would have to say they're lying, because nobody can tell you. You can gather data. You can find information through books. You can find information through your eyes, through your own observation. That's the difference between that's ilm al yaqeen, ayn al yaqeen, and then there's haq al yaqeen, which means learning the truth from your heart. And this is where you kind of gather your data and then assess it, put it together the way that you think makes sense to you. Yes?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've been thinking about comfortability last night and this morning and starting to think, if you get too comfortable, like this one guy, the driving instructor says, man, I just go along with the flow. And it's kind of like, well, just, go wrap yourself in a shroud and bury yourself because you're not growing. You're just being comfortable. Comments, questions, thoughts?
But is there anything about that in Sufi literature about friction, like creating friction in your life to bring about progress, bring about some sort of sense of accomplishment in learning, or is there anything?
Absolutely. Lots of stuff. I mean, even Muhammad, peace and blessings upon him, said, if you're going to, look for knowledge, go anywhere, go everywhere, even to China, wherever it takes you to know, to understand, to learn. It's very important. And then you just took me back to like where the idea of chemistry comes from was the idea of in the 1300s in Spain, Jews, Muslims, and Christians came together to ask that question. So what is this? How does it work? This is Allah's world. Let's see if we can figure it out. From that meeting, the first university, these people from these different religions had realized by sharing our knowledge, we can learn more. So we get things like algebra, we get alchemy, we get soap, we get the beginning of hospitals, of cleansing oneself, of being clean. We get the idea of lacquer and not drinking from lead, things like pewter that was poisoning everybody. We get baths, we get medicine, we get an entire idea of what happens when you take these elements and boil them and cook them and melt them and burn them and solidify them and ice them. And the idea of alchemy is this idea of burning. And the idea of turning lead into gold, that's you. We're going to turn you, a piece of lead, into something golden. How do we do that? Friction. Fire. So you have all these different states that matter goes through, they discovered, but it wasn't about the matter, it was what happened inside as we went through these changes. Anytime you take on a great work, a project of any kind, that is alchemy. Because you think you're changing something, but it's changing you. Because you have to learn patience. You have to learn perspicacity and perseverance and level-headedness, objectivity, and lots and lots and lots of failure. So yes.
Fire is really hard.
Yep. So the idea then is to build in a reward system for yourself that when you get to a certain point, you get to a goal, you go, yay, I made it. Because that way you teach your body how to give yourself dopamine. And then your body goes, I want another reward. Well, if you want another reward, you're going to have to go through these steps. Oh, okay, I'll do that. And thus you get success. You get people going through everything to be able to achieve something that we all thought was impossible.
Yeah.
Amen. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. So, yes, it is about fire, but it's also learning how to cool and, again, assess what have I learned. And especially with failure. Failure is where you learn the most. And forget the idea of perfection. Allah made us this way, if you look at it from that point of view, to learn. And to learn means to make mistakes. And to make mistakes means nobody's perfect. I have to do that with a New York accent. Yeah, no one's perfect. Yeah.
But you're from California.
Yes, so what?
Okay, sorry.
California, man, everything's groovy. Get down and get surfing. Get a brewski. But if you want to be Indian, that's a whole other thing. Because it's a very, very special way of going about things. I like your question, Adam. Keep asking it. Well done.
It was a bit too general, wasn't it? Sorry.
Nope. All good. Going back to where we started about the witness. The witness is the one that is not involved with the tribe. And the tribe is based on the family unit. And I spoke personally about my own family unit, which is very judgmental. Certain people are certain ways. And if you meet this kind of person, you should watch out because they will be this way and that way. Every generation has their own cultural taboos and value systems. And to understand that anything that limits you is the dark side. Whenever you think of yourself, well, I'm just this or I'm just that. I'm just a man. I'm just a woman. I'm 40. I'm 50. I'm 20. I'm just this. No, you're not. You're so much more. You're part of the universe. You're part of Allah. You're here to bring love, joy, and happiness to people you meet and to help and be supportive. You can make this a better world. It doesn't have to be all about you. Well, what about me? Well, you want to find about that's a whole other life. That's a different life. One that Mui and Alameen has been through when there's more women in the family than you.
Yes.
One more boys.
Oh boy, yeah.
Which is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Learning clarity requires taking time to assess during the day, like twice an hour, I'm suggesting. Like every half hour, there should be another assessment time, which requires you to just breathe in and out and ask your heart, How are things going? Anything needs to be redressed, addressed? No? All right, let's get back into it. I find that really helpful. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina sirata mustaqim. Sirata allazina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. Alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Sheikh. Thank you, everyone. Bye, Jawad. See you in a couple of weeks, inshallah.
Hello.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be here too. Fantastic. Yeah. Excellent.
All right. Thanks, Sheikh. Bye. Bye.
Salaam Alaykum.
Wa alaikum salam. Bye.
Bye.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Salaam Alaykum, murids, seekers, curious, and interested listeners. We appreciate you and are happy to share our Sufi message. Your donation will help support our Sufi Center in Sydney, where we do zikr, sohbet, spiritual counseling, and healing services. We believe the message should be free, but it costs equipment, rental, services, software, and hardware to get this to you. So thank you for choosing our podcast among all the millions available. If you go to our website, ansarisufiorder.org, you will be able to donate through PayPal whatever you think this information is worth to you. Blessings and love, the Australian Ansari Sufi Order.